Good morning. It's a pleasure to be able to join you all from New York City. We at Ethical Systems are thrilled to be able to contribute to your events and look forward to learning more about your dialogue and your discussions. The issues you are addressing at this conference are some of the most difficult and crucial in our times. Managing ethics is challenging in any organization given the complexities of behavior and organizational psychology. But in financial services, the complexity and the stakes rise to an even higher level. I spent the last 8 years before joining Ethical Systems as a lawyer at the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. While many lawyers and prosecutors continue to untangle the legal ramifications of the decisions that led up to the crisis, the ethical failures that led to breaking the bonds of trust with clients unraveled very quickly. Addressing these systemic issues is what brought me here to Ethical Systems. There is evidence that the mere presence or promise of money can cause people to become more business-focused, causing ethics to fade from a person's immediate considerations. Once that shift happens, it can have a negative impact on ethical decision-making. Being aware of this can help organizations develop cultures that guard themselves against undesired behaviors. As you know, too often when there are ethics failures or scandals at companies, there's a common misconception that the problems were caused by a few individuals at the firm. In Australia, I believe there's recognition that the problem is often deeper than a few bad apples, and that people really need to analyze the root cause of the ethics failure, and they need to address the culture that enabled and perhaps inadvertently encouraged the behavior in the first place. As you know, research shows that simply stating a firm's values as part of a code of conduct or other document is not sufficient. Effort has to be made and be concentrated around integrating ethics into the day-to-day culture of an organization so that employees believe that the company is actually walking the talk. So then the question becomes, how do you do that? It's widely accepted that culture impacts all aspects of how a firm does business. But how should companies think about the role of culture relating to their ethics and the firm's behavior? And how would you assess whether you even have an ethical culture? We are researching these answers. Ethical Systems is a nonprofit that was founded by Professor Jonathan Haidt from the NYU Stern School of Business as a collaboration among 22 of the leading experts in the field of business ethics. Many of our collaborators come from the social psychology and social science research, and our research starts with a common understanding that for a very large majority of people, the social context and culture is the primary influence on behavior. This has been shown through numerous seminal social science experiments. For us at Ethical Systems, we draw upon the social and behavioral science research to address the challenge of ethical culture in business. To begin to change a company's culture, you need to be able to address it and understand it. At the broadest level, you want to understand why things are done in a certain way in your organization, and the nuanced role that culture plays in how things get done. This goal is so broad that it can be easily dismissed, because understanding human-based systems can be so complex. But decades of social science research has already made much progress in these areas. To address the challenges of assessment and measurement, we convened a working group of the leading experts in the US on culture measurement. Our working group is led by Professor Linda Trevino from the Smeal College of Business at Penn State and includes faculty and researchers from across 5 different business schools. We are thrilled to have Linda leading our efforts in this initiative. Our goal is to create several modules of survey-based assessment tools and make them generally available to the public so that companies can start with a common set of empirically validated tools. And this is important. What we find here in the US is that many companies work with consultants to help them assess culture, but in our review of some of these surveys, many are repurposing a general culture survey to try to address ethics risks. And those who do use more specific ethical culture surveys are using ones that are proprietary and therefore not peer-reviewed, or mostly address organizational processes rather than ethical behaviors. This is the gap that we aim to fill. A few comments on what culture assessment is not. It is not an assessment of individual morality, and it is not a measurement of personal values. It is not the same as employee engagement, which can be an outcome of your ethical culture. As part of our modular approach, we have started data collection on Module 1, which is a survey that mostly addresses the behavioral traits that comprise an ethical culture. Our survey asks employees about their perceptions on constructs such as organizational fairness, ethical leadership, trust, empathy, speak-up culture, and also their commitment to the organization, among various other factors. I want to pause a minute on speak-up culture. We have begun collaborating with Professor A.J. Brown from Griffith University as well as Dennis Gentilin, who are doing some innovative work in this area. They have expanded the Whistling While They Work research to a broader integrity at work framework, an initiative that integrates ethical culture, ethical climate, and leadership to consider a more systematic analysis of why people may not be willing to speak up at work. Creating workplace environments that encourage people to raise ethical issues before they get out of hand is the best defense for a company who sincerely wants to prevent ethical failures. While Module 1 of the Ethical Systems Survey provides a perspective on the norms of behavior within an organization, Module 2 will assess employee perceptions of the effectiveness of the more formal program elements and processes. It can help a company determine whether employees believe that their ethics training actually applies to their day-to-day work, or if they believe that the performance and reward structures are integrating ethics into the organization. Our research goal is to collect data sufficient on these constructs to conduct factor analysis and validation of their use. We then plan to work with companies to collect non-financial data that can be used to correlate perceptions of culture with outcomes that drive company performance, such as innovation and financial performance as well. We believe that by showing companies that ethics pays, we can further build the evidence to invest in the ethical infrastructure of an organization in the long run. The Ethical Systems Culture Survey is just the start. We encourage companies to go beyond surveys to conduct focus groups and one-on-one interviews to understand how employees think about their day-to-day ethics challenges. Also, consistent measurement over time is important for a company to be able to measure the effectiveness of their internal programs. Measuring program effectiveness is complex and would likely require randomized controlled trials among many firms, as well as broader discussions of the outcomes that are important to an industry, such as improved customer loyalty or employee retention. And ideally, these outcomes would actually be measured in ways that are not self-reported by customers and the employees. But it all starts with having a common set of assessment tools, which is where we have started our research as well. We applaud the Banking and Finance Oath on their progress in bringing a self-regulatory approach to the financial services sector, and the expansion of their work through this conference to consider how the oath can be integrated into an organization's broader culture. We look forward to being a collaborative partner in your efforts. Thank you.